Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the stars streak past the main window. His ship had been traveling through space for 2 years now, exploring places no human had ever seen before. The mission was simple: map new star systems and look for anything interesting. So far they had found plenty. "Captain, we're getting a message," said Amy Carter from her seat at the communications desk. She was young, maybe 25, with short red hair and sharp green eyes. "It's coming from somewhere called Nexus Prime." Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of message?" Amy frowned at her screen. "It's a formal summons. They want us to appear before something called the Galactic Council. They say we've broken several laws." "Laws?" Jake scratched his head. "What laws? We didn't even know there were other people out here until last month." The ship's doctor, Kevin Walsh, looked up from his medical reports. He was older than the rest of the crew, with gray hair and kind eyes behind thick glasses. "Maybe we should answer them. It sounds important." Lisa Parker, the chief engineer, came up from the engine room. She was covered in grease and looked tired. "Did someone say we're in trouble?" "What did we do now?" "Apparently we broke some galactic laws," Jake said. "Danny, what do you think?" Danny Rodriguez was the ship's tactical officer. He was quiet most of the time, but when he spoke, people listened. Could be a trap. Could be real. Either way, we should be careful. Jake thought about it. The Defiance was Earth's first deep spaceship, and they were still learning how things worked out here. In the past month, they had met 3 different alien races. Each meeting had been strange and confusing. Amy sent a reply. "Tell them we'll come to their station. Ask for directions." The journey to Nexus Prime took 3 days. When they arrived, Jake could hardly believe what he saw. The station was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. It was shaped like a giant wheel spinning slowly in space. Ships of all sizes and shapes were docked around it. "Look at all those ships," Lisa said, her eyes wide. "I count at least 50 different designs." "Some of them don't even look like ships," Danny added. "That one over there looks like a giant crystal." Amy was busy with her radio. "They're giving us landing instructions. Bay 47. The Defiance was small compared to most of the other ships. As they flew through the docking bay, Jake saw aliens walking around on the platforms. Some looked like giant insects. Others seemed to be made of light. One group appeared to be living clouds of gas. "This is going to be interesting," Kevin said quietly. They landed and walked out of their ship. A tall creature that looked like a lizard wearing robes approached them. It had yellow eyes and scales that changed color as it moved. "Humans," the creature said in perfect English. "I am Guide Ketmar. The council is waiting for you." They followed Ketmar through long corridors filled with aliens. Jake tried not to stare, but it was hard. He had never imagined there could be so many different kinds of life in the universe. The council chamber was enormous. Hundreds of aliens sat in curved rows that went up toward the ceiling. At the front, on a raised platform, sat the most impressive alien Jake had ever seen. It was at least 10 feet tall, with red scales and glowing yellow eyes. Its voice echoed through the chamber when it spoke. "I am Chairman Vextar of the Galactic Council. You humans stand accused of serious crimes against galactic law." Jake stepped forward. He felt very small in the huge room. "Chairman, we're here to answer your questions. But I should tell you, we didn't know about any galactic laws. We're explorers from Earth." The room exploded with noise. Aliens were talking, clicking, buzzing, and making sounds Jake couldn't even describe. Chairman Vextar raised a clawed hand and the noise stopped. "You claim ignorance of galactic law. How is this possible? Any species advanced enough for interstellar travel must know of the Council." Lisa stepped up beside Jake. "Sir, we've only had space travel for about 60 years. We've never been this far from home before." An insect-like alien stood up in the gallery. It looked like a giant praying mantis with 4 arms. "I am Ambassador Clixith of the Zephyrian Empire. These humans sent warships into our territory. They scanned our defensive positions with aggressive sensor sweeps." Jake looked confused. "Warships? We only have one ship and it's a research vessel. We were mapping a nebula when we detected some gravitational readings that didn't match the star charts." "You detected our cloaked fleet?" Clixith's voice rose higher. Danny shrugged. "We saw some gravity shadows that looked odd. When we went to investigate, ships started shooting at us. We tried to call them on the radio, but they kept firing. Our ships were invisible." Clixith protested. "Not to gravity sensors," Lisa said simply. "Anything with mass shows up on gravitational readings." Another alien stood up. This one looked like a living crystal that sparkled with its own light. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music. I am Resonance Prime of the Valdorian Collective. These humans stole our energy signatures while we were conducting scientific research. Kevin looked puzzled. We were studying a pulsar. Our computers automatically record all electromagnetic signals in the area. It's standard procedure. You were studying a pulsar? The crystal alien's music became higher-pitched. The radiation should have destroyed your ship. We reinforced our shields, Danny said. It's basic safety protocol for high radiation environments. A third alien appeared to be made of glowing gas. It floated above the others and spoke in a whisper that somehow filled the entire room. I am drift consciousness of the Netheri. These humans caused a star to explode while we were living in its stellar winds. Jake checked his notes on a small computer. Oh, right, that star. We were collecting fuel from its outer layers when our sensors detected instability. We evacuated the system and broadcast warnings on all frequencies. We didn't know anyone lived there. You survived a supernova at close range? The gas creature whispered. We left before it exploded, Amy said. Our sensors predicted the explosion 3 hours in advance. Chairman Vextar leaned forward on his throne. Humans, these accusations suggest capabilities far beyond what your appearance would indicate. How do you explain these incidents? Jake looked at his crew. They all seemed as confused as he was. Chairman, we were just doing our job. We're explorers. We map star systems, study interesting phenomena, and try not to bother anyone. We had no idea we were breaking any laws. The chamber fell silent. Jake could feel hundreds of alien eyes staring at them. He suddenly realized that something was very wrong. These aliens seemed afraid of them, but he didn't understand why. The Defiance was just one small ship with 5 people on it. What could be so scary about that? Chairman Vextar stood up slowly. The council will recess to consider these claims. Humans, you will remain on this station until we reach a decision about your fate. The next morning, Chairman Vextar called the humans back to the council chamber. Jake and his crew walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime, still amazed by all the different aliens they saw. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, others crawled on many legs, and some just floated through the air. I still can't believe how many different species there are, Amy whispered to Lisa as they entered the chamber. And they all seem to know each other, Lisa whispered back. We really are the new kids here. The council chamber was packed again. It seemed like every alien on the station wanted to watch what happened to the humans. Chairman Vextar waited until everyone was quiet before he spoke. Today, we will hear detailed accusations against the humans. Each species will present their evidence and the humans will have a chance to respond. The first to speak was Ambassador Clixith, the giant mantis-like alien. He stood at a podium that adjusted to his height and began clicking rapidly. A translation device turned his clicks into words. 3 weeks ago, human warships appeared in Zephyrian space without warning. They conducted aggressive sensor sweeps of our border defenses. Our fleet was forced to engage them to protect our territory. Jake raised his hand. Can I ask a question? How many ships did you see? Clixth's head turned toward him with a sharp motion. Your main battle cruiser and its escort fighters. Danny looked confused. We don't have any escort fighters. The Defiance is the only ship we have. Impossible, Clixith clicked. We detected multiple smaller craft launching from your vessel. Lisa spoke up. Those were probably our survey probes. We launched them to scan areas that might be dangerous for the main ship. Survey probes? Clixith's mandibles clicked rapidly. They moved with the speed and agility of advanced fighters. Well, yeah, Lisa said. They have to be fast to avoid asteroids and space debris. And they're small, so they're pretty agile. Amy stepped forward. When we tried to contact your ships, why didn't you answer our radio calls? You were transmitting on all frequencies simultaneously, Clixith replied. This is a known jamming technique used before attacks. Kevin laughed, then tried to cover it with a cough. Sorry, but that's just how our communication system works. We broadcast on multiple frequencies to make sure someone receives the message. Chairman Vextar leaned forward. Ambassador Clixith described these aggressive sensor sweeps. They penetrated our stealth technology completely. They mapped our fleet positions down to individual ship locations. Such scanning capability could only come from advanced military sensors. Danny shrugged. We were mapping gravitational fields around the binary star system. Any object with significant mass shows up clearly on gravity sensors. We had no idea your ships were supposed to be hidden. You detected 18 cloaked vessels from a distance of 12 light minutes, Clixith said, his voice rising. Our stealth technology has never been penetrated before. Cloaking doesn't hide gravity, Lisa explained patiently. If something has mass, it bends space-time. Our sensors are designed to detect those distortions. The chamber filled with murmurs as aliens discussed this among themselves. Many seemed shocked by what they were hearing. Next, Resonance Prime floated to the center of the chamber. The crystal being's musical voice filled the air. The humans committed technological theft by absorbing Valdorian energy patterns during our sacred research rituals. Sacred research rituals? Kevin asked politely. We were conducting deep studies of pulsar emissions to expand our understanding of high-energy physics. The humans appeared and began stealing our data. Amy looked at her notes. We were studying the same pulsar. Our computers automatically record all electromagnetic signals in the area. It's standard scientific procedure. You were within the pulsar's death zone. Resonance Prime's music became more intense. No known technology can protect biological life from such radiation levels. We upgraded our radiation shielding, Danny said simply. We use a layered system with electromagnetic deflectors and dense metal barriers. Layered shielding? The crystal alien's light flickered. Our most advanced shields are single-layer systems. Lisa pulled out a small device that looked like a tablet computer. Would you like to see the technical specifications? The basic principles are pretty straightforward. Several Valdorian scientists in the gallery leaned forward, their crystalline forms blazing with curiosity. Resonance Prime's voice became very quiet. You would share this technology freely? Sure, Lisa said. It's just basic engineering. You layer different types of protection to handle different types of radiation. It's more efficient than trying to make one perfect shield. The chamber erupted in excited chatter. Jake noticed that many aliens were taking notes on various devices. Finally, Drift Consciousness, the gas creature, spoke. Its whisper somehow reached every corner of the huge room. The humans weaponized stellar bodies, causing massive destruction in inhabited space. Weaponized? Jake looked genuinely confused. We were collecting fuel. You extracted matter directly from a star's core while we inhabited its stellar wind. Then you caused the star to go supernova. Kevin consulted his medical scanner, which doubled as a general scientific instrument. Actually, we collected material from the outer layers, not the core. And we left the system when our sensors detected instability. You predicted a supernova 3 hours in advance? Drift Consciousness's whisper became more urgent. Our sensors detected unusual fluctuations in the star's magnetic field, Amy explained. The computer model showed it would collapse within 6 hours, so we left and broadcast warnings. How did you survive collecting fuel from a star? The gas alien asked. Magnetic containment fields, Lisa said. We use the star's own magnetic field to channel material into our collectors. It's actually pretty safe if you monitor the field strength carefully. Danny added, we sent out warnings because we thought other ships might be in the area. We didn't want anyone to get hurt. You warned us to save our lives, Drift Consciousness whispered, even though you did not know we existed. Of course, Jake said. It's basic space safety. If you see a hazard, you warn everyone in the area. Chairman Vextar stood up slowly. His yellow eyes seemed to glow brighter as he looked down at the humans. These explanations raise more questions than they answer. You describe impossible technologies as if they were simple tools. They're not impossible, Lisa protested. They're just engineering solutions to common problems. Common problems? Vextar's voice echoed through the chamber. Surviving pulsar radiation is a common problem for your species? Well, we explore a lot of dangerous places, Jake said. You have to be prepared for high radiation environments, gravitational anomalies, stellar instabilities, that sort of thing. Amy nodded. Our mission is to map unknown regions. Unknown usually means dangerous. The chamber fell completely silent. Jake looked around at hundreds of alien faces, all staring at his crew with expressions he couldn't read. Some looked afraid, others seemed amazed, and a few appeared to be calculating something in their heads. You are 5 individuals, Chairman Vextar said slowly. In one ship exploring the most dangerous regions of space as a matter of routine. Yes, sir, Jake replied. That's our job. Vextar sat back down heavily. The Council needs time to process this information. We will reconvene tomorrow to discuss your fate. As the humans were escorted back to their quarters, Jake could hear excited conversations breaking out all over the chamber. He had the strange feeling that they had just made their situation much more complicated. The third day brought a different atmosphere to the council chamber. Chairman Vextar looked tired, and many of the alien delegates seemed nervous. Jake wondered what they had been discussing in private. "Humans," Vextar announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The Council has decided your fate will be determined through trial by ordeal. You will face 3 challenges that test your worthiness to exist in civilized space." Jake felt his stomach drop. "Challenges? What kind of challenges?" "The first is military prowess. You will face our greatest warrior in simulated combat. The second tests technological capability. You will solve an ancient puzzle that has stumped our finest minds. The third examines diplomatic skill through mediating an impossible conflict." Danny stepped forward. "And if we fail these tests?" Vextar's scales darkened. "Then your species will be declared a threat to galactic peace. Your ship will be destroyed and your homeworld will be quarantined." The humans looked at each other with worried expressions. They were scientists and explorers, not warriors or diplomats. "However," Vextar continued, "if you succeed, humanity will be invited to join the Galactic Council as an equal member." "We accept," Jake said quickly, before anyone could object. The first challenge took place in a massive virtual reality chamber. The humans stood on a platform while thousands of aliens watched from viewing galleries above. Across from them, a group of Draknari warriors prepared for battle. Admiral Scarthak was the largest Draknari Jake had ever seen. His red scales were scarred from many battles, and his yellow eyes burned with fierce intelligence. He commanded 12 heavily armed warships that appeared as holograms around the chamber. "Human captain," Scarthak growled, "you will face the finest fleet in the galaxy. We have never been defeated in over 300 years. Jake looked at the simulation of his own ship floating nearby. It looked tiny compared to the Draknari warships. "Admiral, just so I understand the rules, this is a fight to the death?" "Simulated death," Vextar clarified. "When your ship is destroyed, the test ends." "Okay," Jake said. He looked at his crew. "Any ideas?" "Those ships are built for formation fighting," Danny observed, studying the enemy vessels. "If we can break up their formation, they'll have trouble coordinating." "Their weapons are designed for long-range combat," Lisa added. "If we get in close, they might not be able to target us effectively." Amy was checking her communication equipment. "I can try jamming their communications, but I don't know their frequencies." Kevin looked nervous. "I'm a doctor, not a fighter. What can I do?" "Monitor our damage and keep us informed," Jake decided. "Everyone ready?" The battle began with the Draknari ships moving into a perfect fighting formation. They advanced slowly, their massive weapons charging for the killing blow. It was an impressive sight that had intimidated countless enemies over the centuries. The human ship did something completely unexpected. Instead of advancing or retreating, it began moving in a random pattern that made no sense to military observers. "What are they doing?" Admiral Scarthak demanded of his tactical officer. "Unknown, sir. Their movement pattern has no recognizable structure." Jake was flying the ship himself, following Danny's suggestions. "Left, up, spin around that asteroid. Now dive toward the third ship from the right." "They're not following any combat doctrine I've ever seen," Scarthak muttered. The random movements had an unexpected effect. The Draknari formation, designed to fight enemies who followed logical military tactics, began to fall apart as ships tried to track the unpredictable human vessel. "Now we go in close," Jake announced, diving toward the largest enemy ship. "Sir, they're entering our minimum weapons range," a Draknari gunner reported. "Impossible. No ship is fast enough to penetrate our formation." But the human ship was small and incredibly agile. It darted between the massive Draknari vessels like a fish swimming through a school of whales. Lisa had been working on a plan. "Jake, remember that mining equipment we installed for collecting samples? You want to use mining tools in a space battle?" "Why not? A laser is a laser, right?" The human ship began using its scientific equipment as weapons. Mining lasers designed to cut through asteroids sliced into enemy hulls. Sample collection arms grabbed onto Draknari ships and wouldn't let go. Even the garbage disposal system was used to launch debris at enemy sensors. "They're using industrial equipment as weapons," Scarthak said in disbelief. "How is this possible?" "Their mining laser just cut through our primary armor," his damage control officer reported. "It's not even a military weapon." Amy had been working on the communication problem. "I figured out their radio frequencies." "Want me to jam them?" "Better idea," Jake said with a grin. "Connect me to their command channel." A moment later, Jake's voice came through every Draknari ship's communication system. Admiral Scarthak, this is Captain Morrison. Your ship's reactor is showing signs of instability. You might want to check your power couplings. What? Scarthak looked at his engineering displays. The readings were normal. How do you know about our reactor design? We've been scanning your ships with our scientific sensors, Kevin reported, reading from his medical scanner, which doubled as a general analysis tool. Your power systems are running pretty hot. The Draknari Admiral was confused. The humans were giving him technical advice in the middle of a battle. This had never happened before in 3 centuries of warfare. Meanwhile, the human ship continued its chaotic attack pattern. It seemed to be everywhere at once, using equipment in ways that made no military sense but were surprisingly effective. Sir, the Draknari tactical officer said urgently, they've disabled our weapons targeting. They're jamming us with some kind of scientific broadcasting signal. Amy had connected their star mapping equipment to the communication system, flooding the enemy ships with harmless but overwhelming data streams. One by one, the Draknari ships found themselves unable to fight effectively. Their weapons couldn't track the fast-moving human vessel. Their communications were disrupted by scientific data, and their sensors were confused by mining laser reflections. The simulation ended with the human ship intact and all 12 Draknari vessels disabled. The viewing galleries fell silent. Admiral Scarthak stared at the results in shock. How did you defeat us? You have no military training, no warships, no weapons designed for combat. Jake looked embarrassed. We're really sorry about that, Admiral. We didn't mean to hurt anyone. We were just trying to survive. You apologize for winning? Scarthak's confusion was obvious. We're not warriors, Danny explained. We're explorers. We just used what we had available. Lisa added, your ships are really impressive, by the way. Much better armor than anything we've seen before. The Draknari Admiral sat down heavily. In 300 years of military service, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans had won a space battle using mining equipment and scientific instruments, while apologizing for the inconvenience. Chairman Vextar's voice echoed through the chamber. The first challenge is complete. Humans, you have succeeded through methods we do not understand. Tomorrow you will face the technological challenge. As they left the virtual reality chamber, Jake heard alien voices discussing what they had witnessed. The words impossible, unprecedented, and terrifying came up frequently in the translations. He had the uncomfortable feeling that they were making things worse for themselves with every challenge they completed. The 4th day brought them to a different part of Nexus Prime. The technological challenge took place in a laboratory that looked more like a temple. Ancient machines covered in strange symbols filled the room, and the air hummed with mysterious energy. Chairman Vexitar stood before a complex device that rose from the floor like a metallic tree. 7 different colored lights pulsed along its branches, but none of them were working together. The pattern was chaotic and painful to watch. This is the Harmony engine, Vextar explained. It was built by an ancient race that disappeared millions of years ago. For 5,000 years, the greatest minds in the galaxy have tried to make it work properly. Lisa walked around the device, studying it carefully. What's it supposed to do? When functioning correctly, it harmonizes 7 different types of energy into a single, stable power source. The energy output would be incredible, but no one has ever solved the puzzle. Jake looked at the flashing lights. What exactly is the problem? Resonance Prime floated nearby, her crystal form glowing with excitement. Each energy matrix requires different operating parameters. When you optimize one, it disrupts the others. The mathematics are impossibly complex. We've tried every possible combination, added a Valdorian scientist. Computer simulations, quantum calculations, even artificial intelligence programs. Nothing works. Kevin was looking at the device with his medical scanner. These energy readings are really strange. It's like each part is fighting the others. Amy checked her communication equipment. I'm picking up interference patterns from those energy sources. They're definitely not synchronized. Danny examined the base of the machine. There are a lot of cables down here. Some of them look newer than others. Many species have modified the original design, Vextar admitted. Each attempt to improve it has added more complexity. Lisa was still walking around the device, but now she looked puzzled rather than impressed. Can I borrow some basic tools? Screwdrivers, wire cutters, that sort of thing? Tools? Resonance Prime's musical voice rose in pitch. This device requires precise quantum calibration. Not crude mechanical intervention. Maybe, Lisa said. But I'd like to try something simple first. The alien scientist looked shocked as Lisa began removing panels from the ancient machine. She worked quietly for about 10 minutes, occasionally asking Danny to help her reach difficult spots. What are you doing? The Valdorian scientist asked nervously. Those components have been precisely adjusted by our finest engineers. That's the problem, Lisa said, pulling out a handful of cables. Everyone kept adding improvements without considering how they affected the whole system. She held up a thick cable that glowed with purple energy. This power coupling is fighting with the original blue energy matrix, and this quantum stabilizer someone installed is actually making the green matrix more unstable. But those improvements were based on advanced theoretical calculations. Resonance Prime protested. Maybe the calculations were wrong, Lisa suggested. She continued removing what she called improvements until only the original 7 energy sources remained. Now, she said, instead of trying to make each energy perfect by itself, let's see if we can make them work together. She began connecting the energy sources in a pattern that looked random to the watching scientists. Instead of the complex quantum couplings they expected, she used simple mechanical connections that allowed each energy type to fluctuate naturally. This is impossible, the Valdorian scientist said. You're creating deliberate inefficiencies in the system. Sometimes inefficiency in one part makes the whole system more efficient, Lisa explained, adjusting a connection. Like a car engine. Each cylinder doesn't run perfectly, but together they create smooth power. Kevin was monitoring the energy readings. The interference patterns are starting to synchronize. Amy nodded. The wavelengths are finding natural harmonics instead of fighting each other. Lisa made one final adjustment and suddenly the chaotic flashing stopped. The 7 lights began pulsing in perfect rhythm, creating a beautiful pattern that seemed to dance through the air. The harsh humming noise became a gentle musical tone. The laboratory fell silent except for the soft harmony coming from the ancient machine. Energy readings on every instrument in the room showed impossible stability and power output, far beyond anything they had seen before. How? Resonance Prime whispered, her crystal form flickering with amazement. You solved in minutes what we couldn't achieve in centuries. Lisa wiped grease from her hands with a rag. You were trying to make each part perfect instead of making them work together. Sometimes the best solution isn't the most elegant one. But the theoretical models all showed that precise quantum calibration was necessary, the Valdorian scientist insisted. Theory is great, Lisa said with a smile. But sometimes you have to just try things and see what works. Engineering is about solving problems, not following perfect theories. Jake looked around at the stunned alien scientists. Is that it? Did we pass the test? Chairman Vextar stared at the working harmony engine with an expression that might have been awe. The second challenge is complete. Tomorrow you face the final test. As they prepared to leave, Resonance Prime floated over to Lisa. Would you be willing to explain your modifications to our research team? Sure, Lisa said cheerfully. It's really not that complicated once you think about it practically instead of theoretically. The Valdorian scientist looked like he might faint. Practically? You solved the greatest technological puzzle in galactic history by thinking practically? Well, yeah. Most engineering problems have practical solutions if you're willing to try different approaches. That evening, Jake and his crew sat in their quarters discussing the day's events. Through their window, they could see aliens gathering in groups throughout the station, talking excitedly about what they had witnessed. I think we're confusing them, Amy observed. We're confusing ourselves, Danny replied. These challenges are supposed to be impossible, but they seem pretty straightforward to us. Kevin looked worried. What if we're missing something important? What if these tests are harder than they appear? Or, Jake said thoughtfully, what if they're exactly as hard as they appear and we just approach problems differently than everyone else? Lisa was still thinking about the Harmony engine. That device wasn't really broken. It was just over-engineered. Sometimes the simple solution is the right solution. Tomorrow is the diplomatic challenge, Amy said. That might be harder for us. We're not trained diplomats. We're not trained warriors or engineers either, Jake pointed out. But that didn't seem to matter. Danny stood up and looked out the window at the bustling alien activity. I have a feeling tomorrow is going to be very interesting. Outside their quarters, the aliens of Nexus Prime continued their discussions late into the night. The humans had now succeeded at two impossible challenges using methods that no one understood. Many delegates were beginning to wonder what kind of species they were really dealing with. In the Dreknari military quarters, Admiral Scarthak was reviewing battle recordings with his officers, trying to understand how 5 scientists in a research vessel had defeated the galaxy's finest military formation. In the Valdorian science labs, teams of researchers were studying Lisa's modifications to the Harmony engine, amazed that such simple changes could produce such incredible results. And in the council chambers, Chairman Vextar sat alone, contemplating what the final challenge might reveal about these strange humans who seemed to accomplish the impossible by accident. The final day arrived with an atmosphere of tension throughout Nexus Prime. Word of the humans' success in the first 2 challenges had spread to every corner of the station. Aliens who had never heard of Earth were now gathering to witness the conclusion of the trials. The diplomatic challenge took place in a smaller chamber designed for negotiations. 3 alien species sat at separate tables as far apart from each other as possible. The tension in the room was obvious even to the humans. Chairman Vextar gestured toward the 3 groups. These species have been locked in a trade dispute for 47 years. The Malari need access to rare crystals for their underwater cities. The Takari require the same crystals for their silicon-based technology. The Foros feed on the energy the crystals naturally emit. Jake looked at the 3 groups. The Malari looked like large fish with arms and legs, breathing through gills that fluttered nervously. The Takari were rock-like beings with crystals growing from their bodies. The Foros appeared to be living clouds of colored light. What exactly are they fighting about? Amy asked. The crystal fields of Zephron 7, Vextar explained. It's the only source of these particular crystals in known space. Each species needs them to survive, but their requirements are mutually exclusive. A Malari representative, who introduced himself as Wave Speaker Kel, bubbled angrily as he spoke. The crystals must remain underwater to maintain their purity. Any other environment destroys their life-giving properties. The Takari delegate, a being called Foundation Stone Vrex, responded with a voice like grinding rocks. Nonsense. The crystals achieve perfect resonance only in dry, mineral-rich environments. Water contamination ruins their technological applications. The Foros representative, a swirling cloud named Light Dancer Zeph, pulsed with frustrated colors. Both of you destroy the crystal's natural energy emissions. They must remain in open space where their power can flow freely. Jake listened to their arguments for a few minutes, then raised his hand. I'm sorry, but I'm confused about something. Are you all talking about the same crystals? Of course, Wave Speaker Kel bubbled. The sacred crystals of Zephron 7. There are no others like them in the galaxy. Amy had been taking notes on her tablet. When do each of you actually use these crystals? The Malari require them during our spawning season. Once every 3 standard years, Wave Speaker Kel answered. Takari technology demands crystal access during our recharge cycles, which occur annually for 2 months, Foundation Stone Virex added. Foros feeding patterns follow the cosmic energy flows, requiring crystal exposure for 6 weeks every 2 years. Light Dancer Zeph pulsed. Danny looked up from his own notes. So none of you need the crystals at the same time? The 3 aliens stared at him. The concept seemed to puzzle them. Lisa leaned forward. Have you considered sharing the crystals instead of fighting over who gets to own them? Sharing? Foundation Stone Vrex's rocky voice showed confusion. The crystals are either properly maintained or they are ruined. There is no middle ground. Kevin had been quietly studying the 3 species with his medical scanner. Actually, your different requirements might help each other instead of interfering. He showed his readings to the others. The Molari need underwater storage to keep the crystals stable. The Takari need dry environments to activate the crystal's technological properties. The Foros need open space to harvest energy. Amy was working on her tablet, creating a simple schedule. What if you rotated access? The Molari could store the crystals underwater between uses, keeping them stable. When the Takari need them, they could be moved to dry processing facilities. When the Foros need to feed, they could be placed in open space. But the transport between environments would damage them, Wave Speaker Kel protested. Not if you do it carefully, Lisa suggested. You could design special containers that gradually transition the crystals from one environment to another, like pressure chambers for deep-sea diving. Danny was studying the star charts on his scanner. Zephron 7 has 3 moons, right? You could set up facilities on each moon for the different environmental requirements. Moon 1 could be the underwater storage facility, Amy continued, consulting her tablet. Moon 2 could house the tech-area processing centers. Moon 3 could be the open space energy harvesting station. The crystals would cycle between all three locations based on when each species needs them, Kevin added. Instead of fighting over ownership, you'd all be taking care of them together. The three alien delegates looked at each other with expressions the humans couldn't quite read. The chamber was quiet for several minutes. Finally, Light Dancer Zeph pulsed with soft blue light. You suggest we work together instead of competing? Why not, Jake said. You all need the same resource, but at different times and in different ways. It makes sense to coordinate instead of fighting. Foundation Stone Vrex's rocky form shifted slightly. The Takari technological facilities could benefit from Malari water cooling systems during processing. Wave speaker Kel's gills fluttered thoughtfully. Foros energy readings could help us monitor crystal stability during underwater storage. And Takari mineral processing could purify crystals damaged by environmental exposure, Light Dancer Zeph added, now pulsing with warmer colors. Amy looked up from her tablet. I've created a basic rotation schedule based on your natural cycles. Want to take a look? For the next hour, the three species worked together to refine the sharing arrangement. The humans mostly listened and offered simple suggestions when asked. What had been an impossible diplomatic deadlock became a practical problem with a practical solution. This is remarkable, Wave Speaker Kel bubbled with excitement. We will have more crystal access through cooperation than any of us could achieve through conflict. The efficiency improvements are significant, Foundation Stone Vrex agreed. Shared facilities reduce cost for all parties. The energy flows will be stronger with proper coordination. Light Dancer Zeph pulsed with bright, happy colors. Chairman Vexstar watched the proceedings with growing amazement. In 47 years, our finest diplomats could not resolve this conflict. You have achieved agreement in less than 2 hours. Jake looked embarrassed. We didn't really do anything special. We just asked them to work together instead of fighting. But diplomatic theory requires careful negotiation of competing interests, Vexstar protested. Complex trade-offs, territorial concessions, face-saving compromises. Sometimes the simple approach works better, Amy suggested. Instead of treating it like a zero-sum game, we looked for a solution where everyone wins. As the three alien species finalized their cooperation agreement, Chairman Vexstar called for a final council session. The Great Chamber was packed with more aliens than Jake had ever seen. Word of the day's events had clearly spread throughout the station. Humans, Vexstar announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. You have completed all 3 challenges. Your methods were unconventional, but your results speak for themselves. Does this mean we passed? Jake asked hopefully. More than passed. You have demonstrated capabilities that force us to reconsider our understanding of what is possible. Vexstar paused, looking around at the assembled delegates. The Galactic Council hereby invites humanity to join as a full-member species. The chamber erupted in sounds from hundreds of different alien species. Most seemed to be expressing approval, though Jake couldn't be sure about some of the stranger noises. Thank you, Chairman, Jake said when the noise died down. We accept your invitation. Though I should mention that we need to check with Earth first. We're just one ship and we can't speak for our entire species. The chamber fell silent again. Just one ship? Admiral Scarthak stood up in the gallery. How many ships does your species possess? Danny answered honestly. Earth has maybe a dozen deep space vessels. There are colonies building their own ships too, and some independent groups have exploration programs. Probably a few hundred ships total scattered across human space. Human space? Resonance Prime's musical voice carried clearly through the chamber. How large is your territory? About 1,200 systems, Lisa said casually. Though most are just research stations or mining operations. We only have serious colonies and maybe 200 systems. The silence that followed was complete. Jake could hear his own heartbeat in the quiet chamber. Kevin looked around at the stunned aliens. Is that a problem? Chairman Vexstar sat down heavily on his throne. We have been treating you as representatives of a minor species with limited capabilities. You are telling us that a casual exploration mission from your people accomplished feats our greatest experts consider impossible. We're really just scientists, Amy said apologetically. We're not military officers or diplomats or anything special. If you are not special, Admiral Scarthak asked quietly, What are your military forces like? The humans looked at each other uncomfortably. We don't really have military forces in space, Jake admitted. Some of the colony ships have defensive weapons, but mostly we rely on being too far apart for anyone to bother us. And your greatest scientists and engineers? Resonance Prime asked, her crystal form flickering with nervous energy. Much smarter than us, Lisa said. We're just the crew they could spare for a long exploration mission.